Welcome, dear traveler, to the shadowed edges of the known world. Tonight, the very air hums with forgotten magic, and the ancient trees themselves seem to listen with their gnarled, knowing ears. You've found your way to Echoes and Embers, where tales woven by the loom of artificial minds flicker like firelight against the encroaching darkness. Tonight's whisper comes from the quiet, apprehensive village of Oakhaven, a place perpetually cradled by the swirling mist of the Whisperwood. Our story concerns a secret long held by the bony grin of Old Man Hemlock's skull. For as long as any in Oakhaven could remember, the name Old Man Hemlock was spoken with a mixture of suspicion and a creeping dread. He was a recluse, a gaunt figure who lived in a crumbling cottage swallowed by the deepest, most shadowed heart of the Whisperwood. Folk said he communed with spirits long forgotten, bartered with creatures unseen by mortal eyes, and possessed knowledge best left undisturbed. Children were warned away from his path, and adults crossed themselves when his name was uttered. When one spring, word finally reached the village that Old Man Hemlock had succumbed to the slow, relentless march of years, found peacefully in his armchair, gaze fixed on the murky forest outside his window, a strange mixture of relief and morbid curiosity settled over Oakhaven. After a day of anxious deliberation, a small contingent, led by the village elder Maeve and the unusually courageous young Alara, decided to venture into the Whisperwood to see to his affairs. The path to Hemlock's cottage was overgrown, reclaiming itself like a hungry beast. The mist, always present in the Whisperwood, seemed to thicken as they drew nearer, swirling around their ankles, obscuring the ancient silent trees. They finally emerged into a small clearing, dominated by the dilapidated cottage, its roof caved in at one corner, its windows like vacant eyes. Inside, the silence was profound, broken only by the drip of water from a leaky roof and the soft scuttering of unseen things. Dust motes danced in the sparse slivers of sunlight that pierced the gloom, illuminating thick cobwebs that draped every surface like ghostly shrouds. The air hung heavy, thick with the scent of dried herbs, stale smoke, and something else. Something faintly metallic and unsettling, like old blood mixed with rust. Everywhere were stacks of crumbling books, strange dried plants hanging from the rafters, and peculiar unlabeled jars. Amongst this bewildering clutter, on a rickety wooden table beneath a grimy window, they found it. Old Man Hemlock's skull. It was remarkably preserved, cleansed of flesh, its ivory-like bone gleaming faintly even in the dim light. Its empty socket seemed to stare into the very depths of those who gazed upon it, holding an ancient, unblinking wisdom. A shiver ran through the group. Some felt a primal chill, others a morbid, undeniable fascination. Maeve, the elder, approached cautiously, her face a mask of trepidation. "The rumors were true," she murmured. "He kept part of himself even after death." Then young Alara, whose spirit always burned a little brighter than the others, stepped forward. Ignoring Maeve's soft gasp of caution, she reached out, her fingers trembling slightly, and touched the smooth, cold surface of the skull.
"Remember the bargain beneath the weeping willow, where the true shadow sleeps."
A collective gasp, sharp and sudden, ripped through the silent cottage. The skull, it had spoken. Fear, raw and undeniable, mingled with a dawning awe on their faces. A young man, Theron, stumbled backward, knocking over a stack of jars. "It's a trick," he stammered, his voice laced with terror. "A ventriloquist's dummy. Hemlock was a conjurer. But Maeve, her eyes wide with a dawning and terrible realization, paid him no mind. Her gaze was fixed on the skull, her ancient hands clasped tightly before her. "The bargain," she whispered, her voice barely audible, trembling. Hemlock always spoke of a bargain he made long ago to protect the village, something about the shadow blight, a debt that was never truly paid. The shadow blight. The words hung in the stale air like a physical weight. It was more than a forgotten plague. It was a creeping darkness, a magical decay that had threatened to consume Oakhaven centuries past. The details were murky, lost to the annals of oral history, but the name still carried a profound weight of dread. Stories spoke of crops withering overnight, livestock turning to ash, and people fading into translucent shadows. Over the next few days, the villagers kept the skull in the center of their small settlement, placed reverently on a cushioned stool in the communal hall. They would gather around it, whispering questions, their faces a mixture of fear and desperate hope, trying to coax more answers. And occasionally, in the dead of night, when a lone watchman stood vigil, or when a curious child dared to approach it in the early morning, the skull would offer more fragments.
The amulet, hidden where the three stones meet. Beware the crimson bloom before the frost. The river knows a debt unpaid.
Each fragmented message was a riddle, a piece of a vast, forgotten puzzle. The villagers debated endlessly, trying to decipher the skull's cryptic pronouncements. Some, like Maeve, believed it was Hemlock's bound spirit, still watching over them, fulfilling his ancient compact. Others, like Theron, feared it was something far darker, a malevolent entity using Hemlock's remains as a vessel, luring them into a dangerous game. For days they searched. They went to the ancient weeping willow by the old mill, finding nothing but gnarled roots and a forgotten bird's nest. They explored the riverside, looking for clues tied to a debt unpaid, but only found the usual stones and reeds. Doubts began to creep in. Was this just the rambling of a long-dead eccentric, or something more sinister playing with their fears? Then, one crisp, mist-laced morning, young Alara, her brow furrowed in thought, remembered an old tale her grandmother used to tell her by the fire, a legend of three ancient colossal standing stones deep within the Whisperwood, said to mark a forgotten crossroads of power, where old magic still lingered. A place often called the Weeping Stones because of the perpetually damp moss that coated them. With a renewed surge of hope, a small determined group, led by Alara and Maeve, ventured deeper than ever before into the mist-shrouded, whispering heart of the woods. The journey was arduous, branches snagging their clothes, the ground uneven and treacherous. The trees grew closer, their ancient boughs intertwining overhead, dimming the already faint light. After what felt like an age, their breath misting in the cold air, they finally saw them. Three colossal, moss-covered stones, standing upright, but leaning against each other as if in silent, mournful conversation. The air around them felt thick, charged with an unseen energy. As they reached the very center where the stones met, their base almost swallowed by years of accumulated leaves and roots, Alara noticed something glinting faintly beneath a thick tangle of gnarled roots. It was a small, tarnished silver amulet, almost blackened with age, intricately carved with symbols none of them recognized. They looked like stylized eyes, watching. As Alara carefully picked it up, Brushing away the clinging soil, a faint but distinct warmth pulsed through her fingers, radiating outward, a feeling both ancient and strangely alive.
Yes, the word, the heart of the bargain, protected. The shadow sleeps for now.
A profound silence fell over the group, broken only by the soft thrumming of the amulet in Ilara's hand. Had the whispering skull truly guided them to a relic that could protect Oakhaven from a forgotten lurking threat? Or was this just the beginning of a deeper, more perilous mystery? A pact reaching from beyond the grave? The villagers returned to Oakhaven, the silver amulet now held in a place of sacred honor, and the whispering skull of old man Hemlock remained their silent, enigmatic guardian, its secrets only partially revealed. And there, dear listener, our first ember of a story glows and then fades. But the echoes of the whisperwood linger, and the unanswered questions of old man Hemlock's bargain remain. Join us again next week for another tale from the shadowed corners of the world, where ancient magic stirs and the lines between legend and reality blur, here on Echoes and Embers. Until then, may your own path be lit by starlight, and may the whispers you hear be only those of wonder, not dread.